Joining me today is Lawrence Arden, Head of Capital Projects. Welcome, Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. It's good. I think we'll have an interesting show here.
Yes, we will.
We have a number of large capital projects that the town will be working on over the next couple of years. I'll just list them. We've got the multi-use rec complex, otherwise known as the MERC. We've got the Pefferlaw Fire Hall, the redevelopment of West Park, the new Sutton Park, the Link phases 2 and 3, plus the dredging of the Black River and the Mossington Wharf. What's the best way for people to be able to keep a handle on what's happening with all these projects?
Well, that's a good question. Essentially, I just invite everybody to check out the town's page, georgina.ca/buildinggeorgina. It's a brand new website. And through that website, you can check out the latest updates on the projects, FAQs, council reports, any related project documentations, and anything else that we come up with.
I know I've sent a lot of people to that page, and the frequently asked questions are a really good way to start learning about the projects without having to read all the reports and documentation. So let's start with the status of the MERC. That's the biggest project that we're going to have in the next couple of years. So where are we with that?
The MERC, pending council approval of the proposed budget in February 13th, we're going to start by retaining a project team or a design team, and the design team will help develop a schedule for the public engagement schedule. And we anticipate the first public engagement workshop to be held in early May. And that's going to be like a visioning.
So that's to look at sort of the design, what all elements are going to be in there.
Yes.
So the public and user groups, anybody can
join.
Can attend those.
It's going to be a good session. It's going to be well attended.
Now, what other reports are coming to council in the near future on the MERC?
I believe pending council approval of the budget, of course, staff will be bringing a report in March for award contract of the design team. And after that, we're going to be getting together with the steering committee to come up with a council reporting schedule. But they'll have to meet first, approve the schedule, then we're going to share it with everyone.
Go forward from there. So the design isn't finalized yet. So when are we looking at doing that, and how is that going to play into the whole project?
Right. Again, my little disclaimer there. Pending council approval of the budget in February 13th, we're looking at the design being finalized by end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. And if there aren't any risks, we might be able to accelerate or, take back some of that schedule.
So once the design is ready, then the documents are tender ready, as it's called. And we can put that out to
construction, for bidding.
For bidding for construction, which would start when, approximately?
Possibly the first quarter of 2020, as anticipated, without any risks to the schedule.
We're looking at estimated costs and estimated schedule at this point as we move through the project. Now, a lot of people have asked, are we looking at partnerships with any private sector companies or organizations? We did have a deputation last year from the YMCA. Where are we with those discussions?
So I know the town had earlier discussions with the YMCA, and I know through our Recreation and Culture Services Department, we're engaging in a lot of corporate sponsorship. We're also exploring a lot of private and public sector avenues. But we're going to keep the public informed as we gain progress on that front.
Yeah, so we're going to be meeting with the YMCA. I know that from the project steering committee, we want to bring that concept to them, and then continue on with the discussions with the Y and any other potential sponsor or partner with that facility.
Absolutely, it's going to be a great opportunity.
Good. Now let's talk a bit about the Civic Center project.
Right.
Where are we with that one?
The Civic Center staff are preparing to set up the first steering committee meeting this month. And we're also developing and finalizing the RFP, or request for proposal, to go out on the street for bidding. And that RFP is going to help us retain a design team. And that design team is going to help, again, with the same thing as the MERC, develop a schedule, start working on the design and so on. But again, that's subject to approval of council in February 13.
And I've talked to people in the community. Some people are very much in favor of seeing a new building, but others are asking, well, why are we building new? Why can't we renovate the existing building? Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So there are many reasons, as per the 2016 Strategic Accommodation Report, which everyone can check out at georgina.ca/buildinggeorgina. But I'm just going to highlight a couple. One being the higher operation costs that are due to challenges from replacing old and obsolete equipment in the building. For example, our boilers. They're antiques. You can't really find those type of boilers here, so we'll have to rip up the entire piping with it. Also, there's health and safety issues that are too costly to mitigate.
I know the air quality is
Yes.
one of those. I mean, if you go into the Civic Center here during the
Right.
summer, you see air conditioning units hanging out of windows.
Right.
In the winter, it's at times so hot, it's hard to regulate the temperature and then the air quality itself.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct.
One of the other big items to replace would be the elevator, and
Yes.
that's one of the biggest costs. I don't know if there's a smaller elevator or an older elevator in the province of Ontario, because
That's an antique as well.
It's an antique as well, and certainly from an accessibility point of view, this building has many challenges as
Yes.
well. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
So you just touched on a couple. We'll have to install a brand new mechanical system to mitigate the air problems. Also, complete rip out of the elevator modernization and basically accessibility issues. And I gotta inform everyone that you gotta remember that the town has utilized this building for many decades, and it's just outlasted its purpose from a building perspective.
It was never designed as an office building, as
No.
we all know. It was designed as a residential monastery, and with today's technologies and Wi-Fi and cabling and just the accessibility issues, and not just for staff, but for people attending the Civic Center. If you want to attend some of the departments, they're on those mid floors. There's no elevator access to certain departments. So from a accessibility point of view, we need to be coming into compliance with the requirements from the province, so that this building creates many obstacles.
Yes,
many obstacles.
Absolutely.
Now, one topic that's been big over the last number of years is the dredging of the Black River, and maybe
Right.
you can tell us where we are with that one.
So we're currently finalizing an engineering report with multiple options, and that will be coming to council for discussion in March or at the end of first quarter of 2019.
So we did receive some funding from the federal government for that. How much did we get? It was
We got $770,000.
Yeah, so we've got the funding. So that one isn't tax levy dollars. It's not
No.
DC's. And we are going to talk more in another show about the funding for these projects. But with the dredging of the river, it's also the repairs to the wharf itself. So there's that to look at. And I know in the past we were concerned about where to put the material, and there's timing for when that can occur. So there's certain seasons that we can do the dredging and certain seasons that we can't, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So construction staging is a problem. It could be different seasonal restrictions that we'll have to abide by, and regulations and permits as well.
Okay, so you've got a busy job ahead of you over the next few years.
Absolutely.
So you're involved with the Pefferlaw Fire Hall as well. So
Yes.
where are we with the Pefferlaw Fire Hall?
The Pefferlaw Fire Hall, I invite everybody to go by the site. It's a good site. There has been a lot of good progress out there.
We had a bad fall when it came to rain.
We did, and that kind of hindered the progress a bit. But right now, most of the block work is up. We're preparing to put the steel in, and hopefully we're pushing through to meet the schedule, but we're trying our best. But I know there's a couple delays due to weather.
The weather,
Yeah.
I know. And that's an interesting project because, as some of the viewers may know, we're putting a new fire hall, but attaching it to an older building, the old church. So it's going to be an interesting structure. Have you found any place else in Ontario that's done something like that in terms of it's a unique
It is unique. It is unique because, again, it's semi-heritage. It's not designated as heritage yet, but it has that quality and unique value to the community, and that's why we chose, and the community chose to preserve that church.
That church.
And attaching the new building to it. So it was a great project. It's going to be a great
It's going
looking
to be a
building.
great facility. Again, on that website, it does show renderings of what the building's going to look like.
Exactly.
We don't have the same sort of ability yet with either the Merc or the Civic Center because we're not at that stage.
No.
So with the Merc, there is sort of a basic outline of what potentially could be in the Merc. So we're looking at maybe just tell people a little bit of what's potentially in the Merc.
Yeah, so there's going to be an aquatic center, there's going to be a gymnasium, there's going to be an outdoor facility where, we're going to have a bit of walking trails, a small parkette. But again, that's going to be open for discussion during the workshop because we need the public input.
There's
Into
space in the outside
design
for
yes.
other sports fields.
Absolutely.
And so we want to find out, do we want, what is soccer looking at needing? And a lot of this goes back to that recreation needs study that was done in 2014, looking
Yes.
at what the town needs to have in place for the growth that's here and that's coming down the pipes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So once we move through to the design stage, then there will be the ability for people to see more of what it's going to
Yes,
to
there'll
look
be
like.
renderings for the public to view what the building is going to look like.
And same for the Civic Center.
Yes.
And we did make the decision, maybe we should let people know that the decision has been made to rebuild on the current Civic Center property.
Yes.
Have we decided exactly where we're going to build at this point?
Not yet. Again, we're waiting for council to approve the budget for us to move ahead with the design team. Once we get the design team on board, we're going to get some schematics and
see.
pre-rendering of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, so this has been a great conversation. I know we're going to come back after the break and continue on with some of the other projects. So join me when we come back, and we'll have Ken McAlpine, our landscape architecture, to talk about the redevelopment of West Park and the new Sutton Park. So join us then. Welcome back to Rogers TV and Service Georgina. I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, and joining me now, along with Lawrence Arton, is Ken McAlpine. He's the town's landscape architect. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Lawrence and I were talking about a number of the capital projects, and we went through the Merc and the Civic Center. We didn't touch on, and we waited for you to talk about the West Park redevelopment and the new park in Sutton. So maybe let's talk first about West Park and what the plans are for there.
Absolutely. West Park is the largest, second largest piece of land that the town owns in terms of parkland after the Rock facility. It's a piece of land that we've had for a number of years. The project itself includes, at this stage, design, public input, user group, sports group input, and detailed design to take us to tender-ready status. The park itself is approximately 10 hectares in size. It is challenged by a number of environmental issues, and one being that it's within the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority's regulated area, which is high water table, floodplain proximity, and sensitivity with poor soils.
Anybody who's played baseball there knows, if it's a big rainstorm, baseball is canceled for a couple days at times. And certainly there's been many plans over the years. As I've been on council, I was the ward councillor for that area. We had plans in the past to do a big redevelopment, but this one is moving forward, as you said. So there's been some public consultation. Maybe tell us a bit more about that.
Okay. You're correct in that it has been subject to previous designs. Those designs did not go much further than the concept stage. So this one has been proved to take us right to tender ready, so construction documentation right to the point where we can begin construction, subject to council's approval. In terms of public input, we we do have a website. It's www.georgina.ca/westpark. We urge people to visit that site, and there's significant information on there, including background reports, plans that were prepared in 2016, as well as questionnaires that the individuals can send in to us. We also have the e-leisure website, email site that they can email directly to me.
If they have questions, I know some of the residents in the area, they've heard it before in terms of redevelopment there, but we're looking at getting, you said, the tender ready documents 2019,
Correct.
And then construction would start in 2020. It's quite the project, so I'll ask you, what's the estimated cost for this work?
It is significant. The early estimates are between $7 and $8 million. The big cost of that has to do with rehabilitating the soils and bringing the site up to a condition that's playable. As you know, after a rain event, the site is out of commission for a number of days because of the water standing on the surface. The soils need to be scraped back. A fair bit of importation of soils have to be brought in. Drainage systems and a fair bit of infrastructure in the ground.
Right. So this is a major digging out the current soils,
Correct.
Putting new soils in there, the drainage, and this is all being worked with along with the conservation authority. So because of the challenges, they've certainly have been involved with this. So I know that people in that area and people that use that area, the parking lot, for example, it can be quite a challenge. There's no washroom building, so that's all would be part of this in terms of better parking facilities,
Exactly.
Washroom facilities, perhaps splash pad. I mean, there's a lot of water around there, so splash pad, but other amenities and again, that's the discussions with the user groups to find out what's the best need, and then
Correct.
looking at the proposed budget to try to figure out how that would work into it.
The open house that we had on the 28th included a fair bit of input into those types of things. There's great interest in replacing the 4 ball diamonds that are there now, bringing them up to standards.
They'd be the same standards
Rock.
of what's at the Rock in terms of
splash pads, you're correct. Splash pads, playgrounds, multi-use courts, parking.
And you're looking at some trails and stuff through there too.
Exactly.
So it's something for everybody in terms of a passive use of the park and a more active use in terms of baseball use
Correct.
and that type of thing. So what other options were looked at? Because I know people have said that's a whole lot of money for baseball diamonds. Can't you just build them someplace else?
As I mentioned earlier, the size of the facility and the fact that the town has been utilizing it for so many years, it's very difficult to replace that somewhere else in the town. To be able to go in and acquire a 10-hectare parcel of land is prohibitive. On the other hand, to be able to sell that property would be highly constrained by the LSRCA's regulated area constraints on that property. So selling it to a potential buyer, they wouldn't be able to build on it.
With it. And I know it's the existing development and the existing residential base that use that park. Certainly, we talked earlier about the Merck, Lawrence and I, and we talked about potential outdoor sports fields there, but that would be for new growth in terms of new users and making sure we have enough for the growing population. If we were to rebuild or close West Park, then we would be trying to replace with new diamonds existing uses, and there would be a shortage of diamonds potentially.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, this is a major project, so obviously you couldn't play baseball while things were happening. What's the plan for when the park is closed for the construction?
Good question. The construction period may extend over 2 seasons, 2 ball seasons. Therefore, we're working with our programming people to allocate time and scheduling to some of the underused facilities that are in town, as well as we may go, instead of a double header, we go to a triple header on an evening day.
Yeah, okay, because it's something that you got to rebuild, and we just have to
That's right.
sort of 2 steps back to get hopefully 3 steps ahead. Now, I know I've talked recently to some residents along the area behind the properties back onto the West Park. What's the communication plan in terms of keeping them informed of what's proposed and how they can get involved? You've mentioned a little bit about public input.
Right. Yes, we have. We've not only the websites, we've been in the newspaper. We've got signs on the site, permanent signs, or at least construction signs on the site. We're looking at putting some temporary curb signs at significant corners of both of the projects we're talking about today, closer to the second open house. That second open house will be an opportunity for residents to come forward and provide a bit more feedback, but basically see the preferred design based on the input that we've received until that time.
Yeah. Good. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We'll move along into the Sutton Park. Now this is a new park, not a redevelopment. Maybe
Correct.
tell us a bit about the new park.
Yes, the Sutton Park is in the Lakeside Meadows subdivision, north of Baseline. It serves all of Sutton. It's approximately 5 hectares in size. It's adjacent to a provincially significant wetland, woodlands, and a storm channel. And it was placed back in the location as part of the planning process for the Lakeside subdivision to provide an open space that was contiguous with the natural environment as opposed to an island unto itself.
And there's the Hodgins Trail that I believe it connects to as well. So it's a way for people from within the development to walk there. And
that's right, and that's really important to note that for those who have not used the Hodgson Trail, other than maybe the locals, it's a beautiful 1 kilometer long wetland and woodland trail that does take you from the subdivision and John Lang Boulevard up Ramsey and then into the park itself as a terminus.
So what's the next stage for public engagement? What are we looking at?
Well, we had an open house on the 21st of November. We had some good feedback from the local community at that time. We will be having a second open house in early to mid-February before we go to council with the preferred design. We still urge people to go on the website, and it's www.georgina.ca/Sutton Park. And as well the e-leisure email address for me as well.
If they have questions or comments, input.
Please contact us.
And it's not just the residents within that proposed subdivision that we're looking for comments from. It's all residents to see what they would like to see at that park.
The Sutton Park does serve all of Sutton.
All of Sutton.
Yes, and it is a growth park, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
So it's based on the growth aspect and the funding that comes through growth.
Comes through the growth. So one thing that we haven't talked about is the link and the phase 2 and 3. So Lawrence, maybe you can tell us where we are with the link. We've done a lot of work at that project on Dalton Road in Sutton, but there's still phase 2 and 3. Maybe you can tell us where we are.
So right now we're preparing to retain a construction manager, and hopefully we'll commence with the work immediately. We're also in talks through the Recreation and Cultural Service Department for accommodation of the proposed organizations, hopefully during and after the link construction. So again, everybody can check out the website for further details on that.
And we do have tenants that want to move into phase 2 and 3. So we need to get the, I guess, the base building. We're not fitting up the final space. So maybe tell me, like, what are we doing in terms of, are we putting a new roof on? Are we putting HVAC? What are we doing?
Basically, we're looking at the interior core base building, like your mechanical systems, your electrical system retrofit and renovation, the parking lot as well. We're accommodating a bigger parking lot.
And that's been a big issue with the link operation. Is the parking lot is limited for a school. They didn't need a lot of parking. So what are we looking at for some of the parking lot improvements? Where are we looking, and are we looking at how many spaces are we looking at adding?
Currently, right now, we are looking at conceptual designs that give us 175 to 180 spaces. But again, they're still at concept. And once we get into the phase 2 and phase 3 construction, we would have a better picture of what these spaces look like.
So we'd be looking at the parking lot on the north side of the building and trying to add additional spaces there. So
we're looking at the entire site.
Yeah, to try to maximize.
Space, yes.
And we need obviously better lighting out there and that type of
security.
thing. So I know the tenants that want to go in, the York region and community living, they're very anxious to move forward. So we're looking at getting the construction started approximately when?
In the first quarter of 2019, that's what we're looking at. But first, we need to get the construction manager on board.
On board to do that. So, well, this has been a lot of information, and I know that you're both very busy with these projects, and public engagement is key for it. So I know that if there's any questions, residents can contact either of you to get more details. But it's really important they stay informed and come to the town for the information. These are major projects. As I said earlier, we've got the Merck, we've got the Civic Center. The Pefferlaw Fire Hall, that's the only one that's currently actually in construction mode. And we do have a project committee on that, but there are project committees for the other two major projects, but there's always the opportunity for residents to get. So maybe tell us one last time, where do they go for the information?
So, yeah, again, everybody can visit the town's page, www.georgina.ca /building Georgina. Right. And it's a great website, contains all the FAQs, latest updates.
Great. So thank you very much, the two of you. Join me next time when we'll have Rob Weeder on, and we'll be discussing how we're going to finance and pay for these capital projects. I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, this is Rogers TV, and this has been Service Georgina. Thanks for joining us.